Welcome to The Future Belongs to Creators. This is a show about the creator economy where we dive into the topics and issues that really matter to creators. Let's get started.
Welcome to The Future Belongs to Creators, everybody. I'm excited to be here today with just Haley. It's just the two of us. You've just got The Future Belongs to Creators ladies hanging out with me today. We were initially, I think we might have promised you a guest today, talking to Whitney Manny, but unfortunately there's some tornadoes happening in KC right now where she is, and we felt like, and she felt like, it might be better for her to deal with them. So we'll have that interview. It's going to be great next week with Whitney, hopefully. But today, Haley and I are going to do one of our things we love to do on this show, which is a article discussion. There's this article on Vox called I'm a creator, you're a creator, we're all creators. When did everybody start calling themselves content creators? So we're going to discuss that today, share our thoughts, and talk about this naming, really, of content creator and where it all came from and how we feel about it. But first, let's dig into our first segment. Have you heard? Haley, what news do you have for us today from around the creator economy?
All right. As the designated parent on this podcast, I feel that this is a very important have you heard? But Instagram did one of the coolest things that I think they've done. It's like one of the coolest releases that they've done in, I don't know, years, at least in my opinion. They partnered, and I can't exactly remember the exact agency or like what the agency is called, but they are now releasing Amber Alerts. And Nash, so if there's an Amber Alert, if you know anything, if you're a parent or if you have a phone, if there is an Amber Alert and you are within a general region of where that Amber Alert was issued, which is when a child has gone missing, your phone will automatically be notified. The challenge with Amber Alerts, though, and the technology that they use is that it doesn't include a photo. So with Instagram, if you're scrolling on Instagram really at all, the first thing that you're going to see when that Amber Alert comes up is a photo of the lost or missing child, along with maybe some additional information, like if they were taken in a car or what the car looks like or something like that. So it is an incredible visual tool that I'm really anxious to see, like, how it serves, just how it serves the world. And this is something that they're releasing internationally as well. So I feel like it was a really cool thing that Instagram did. This is not, it's not fluffy. This is like to serve just humanity. And I loved it.
This is honestly a little unexpected to hear coming from Meta. I don't know. I just feel like they're not really out to help the world in the way that like if Apple was doing it, for example, I would be like, oh, that makes sense. That's a good fit. So I'm very pleasantly surprised by this.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that giving up essentially the ad space, for a good cause like this, I love to see it. I love to see it happening. That's a good decision on their part, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've ever gotten an Amber Alert on your phone, it's like boy 5'6", like brown hair, blue eyes, and then you have to actually click into the notification and the notification will take you to the Amber Alert website. So this is a far more functional, like it immediately puts a photo of somebody who's missing, a child in particular missing, which I just think is freaking awesome. Fucking awesome. I think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, you can use the F-bomb on that. I love it. I feel like I can't really follow up my news with that because mine is so insignificant and unimportant compared to that, but I'll tell you anyway, shall I?
Yes, you shall.
So Tuesday, I think it was just yesterday, there was an Apple event, WWDC, where they announced stuff to do with a new operating system. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm excited about just as someone who is all in on Apple products. But one feature that I think is really going to be useful for creators in particular is in Apple Photos now, you're going to be able to essentially highlight and select an item in the photo and copy and paste it. They showed an example in the keynote of this picture of a dog, and they just sort of pressed down on the dog, and then the dog was cut out of the photo and they pasted it in kind of like an emoji in a text message. But how I think, yeah, I know, cool, right? And this is
this is kind of like how Adobe, did you see when Adobe did that inverse and you could actually highlight the subject and then you could, I was like, my mind was like, oh,
I use that. So funny you mentioned that, because how I think this is going to really help creators is something that we're always doing when we're making thumbnails and things, is wanting to like select out the object and like make it stand out from the background, etc. And I always find myself having to open Photoshop to have to do that. And I think that maybe is a little bit inaccessible to some people, you know, maybe don't have Photoshop, don't pay for that Adobe subscription, don't have those skills. There is online services that cut things out of background for you, but they're not great. So I think this could be really helpful for creators to just have this like on their phone, on their iPad, to be working on assets to promote their stuff.
Wow, I thought you were going to say the MagSafe charger is back. You know, like that was
well, it is.
I know,
but I don't know if that's really like important for creators.
What are you talking about? That is literally life changing. The whole USB-C thing. I can't even tell you how many times walked, you know, like a MagSafe chart, like would have saved my computer, because I have little, you know, like little humans that run around, and, you know, and you're like, and then you like see it from a distance, you know, like this morning I was on a Peloton ride and my daughter stood there and she didn't do it on purpose, but she was just pushing up against it, and she pulled out mid-ride, pulled like
out
unplugged my Peloton. No. I was like, damn it.
Well, that's a great excuse for you to have to do less exercise today. So, you know.
No, the problem is, I said this in general, we're just getting into some banter early on here, but my dumb best friend is doing this thing. It's a long story, but one of the more executive leaders at Nike, she reports to her, and she is doing something for, I think, her 52nd birthday. And she's donating to a cause that supports gun control, following all of the stuff that has been happening recently. And so my friend she just had twins. And so she's for her boss's birthday, she was going to donate X number of dollars if you were able to run 152 miles in the month of June. Well, she just had twins. She can't run. And I hate running. I think it's the worst thing on the planet. Like just the worst. So the equivalent of that for cycling is 380 miles cycling.
So she's going to cycle it instead.
And I, for whatever reason, said, you know, I'll do it with you. I'll support you in this. So
You're
I'm
a
about
sucker
like,
for punishment, Haley.
Yeah. So I still have to make up the miles. Like that's my point. I still have to get back on the Peloton
and plug it back in.
Plug it back in.
Because it didn't have a MagSafe. Okay.
Yeah, because it didn't have a MagSafe. All right. Good banter.
So we know you good banter. Check that box. Banter happened in the podcast episode. Let's dive into the article discussion then. Because I think this is an interesting topic, and it's a shift that obviously we noticed at ConvertKit happening. They have like a graphic in the article. Let me pull it up and see if I can call out when it happened. Basically, I'll describe it for people listening. It's the Google search trend data, interest over time in the term how to become a content creator. And basically, it's like we see one or two little tiny spikes back in like 2014 or something. But things don't really start to take off until about 2019. And then it's like a steep curve up into 2022, where we are today. That over the past few years, this term creator, content creator in particular, has really exploded.
You know, something I would really love to see in this particular data is the age of the person that is asking that question. Because later on in the article, they talk a lot about, you know, the youth, right? TikTok stars, things like that. The youth, I don't know. And specifically the percentage of teenagers and children who aspire to be influencers, right? Like that's they're saying, well, that's the job that I want to do. I want to be an influencer. So I'd be really curious to know the breakdown of ages for people, because also later on it talks a lot about how people in everyday roles, like nurses, for example, transition into becoming a content creator, but actually created like a platform based off of being like sharing their experience as a nurse, for example. So,
how they tee it up at the beginning of the article, I thought it was really interesting, the comparison they made. I'll just read out this part that says, why not comedian or competitive dancer or aspiring actor? Didn't that sound more exciting than two of the most meaningless words in existence, content and creator? And I think it's like honestly a good point that content creator is such a general term that it really doesn't tell you much about what to expect from what this person is doing and how they're spending their time, other than they are making something. Could be podcast, could be blog, could be TikToks, could be Instagram posts. Who knows? It kind of encompasses it all.
I mean, this kind of goes back to this conversation that you and I have had several times, is that I think people actually identify themselves as the type of creator that they are. So they're like, oh, I'm a podcaster. And then the world, or like if they're trying to generalize it, they'll be like, oh, well, I create content or something along those lines. But I feel like when I was reading this article, I think it's like a way that we can just generalize everybody that fits into a type of content creation or create some sort of content, right? So I often wonder if it's actually the creator themselves that's calling them a content creator, or if there are certain types of creators that more commonly refer themselves as a content creator, like somebody who purely spends time on TikTok. They do not have a podcast. They don't offer courses, so on and so forth, right? Because they monetize differently. So content, influencers monetize differently than somebody that is a business coach, for example.
I think you've hit on something interesting here, and where I have nothing to back this up. It's just my general sense. But what I think it is that people who are mainly creating content on social media are more likely to use the term content creator, because influencer, which is technically what they're doing, right, on social, has these negative connotations to it. It's had honestly a lower level of respect maybe put on it, rightly or wrongly. Whereas content creator sounds a little bit more elevated than that. It's like, no, I'm creating content. I'm this is my job. I'm creating the content. Yes. And so I think that they're more drawn to using that term, because I personally, I am a content creator, I guess, but I hesitate to describe myself in that way. I definitely call myself a creator. I identify very strongly with that part of it. But there's something about just saying that I'm creating content that feels like it diminishes what it is I'm making. And I'm like, is content just something to be consumed and then thrown away and passed on and never to be revisited again? When I'm making content, what I'm actually hoping I'm creating is an impact on someone on their design career, right? For me specifically. And so that's why I personally feel a hesitation towards attaching that term content creator to myself, even though the creative side of it, I definitely align with. Who knows though? Am I just being snobby? What do you think?
I don't know. Teddy, you're here. I see you in the chat. What do you consider yourself? Do you consider yourself an influencer? Obviously not, because you just said influencer has become a dirty word for whatever reason in the comment. But do you refer to yourself as a content creator, or do you refer to yourself as a creator?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that from anyone listening in the chat, actually, as to how you define yourself, and if content creator rings true for you. I don't know. We're creating content right now, Haley. We are content creators.
This is true. Something that I really liked that he said, though, which is one of the powers, or I think the thing that's really important with social media, is as the article says, I think the more interesting question, though, is when did seemingly everyone in the world become a content creator, whether they signed up for it or not? Yes, and that's something that I think is really important to note, because unless you have a private Instagram or a private channel, right, without certainty, you are influencing someone.
And you are creating content. And you are feeding the social media feeds. Yeah.
And it does not, I think that this is important, is that there is a sense of responsibility with that. It's everybody needs to own their own personal responsibility on what they want and how they want to show up in the world and share share themselves with the world, right? So it could be something as simple as let's say for me as a mom, if I put my kids in whatever, I choose to post my children on social media, and they have a Nike backpack on, right? I am influencing my friends, whether I want to be or not, whether I'm intentionally doing it or not, I am endorsing the company Nike. Yeah. And that is obviously a very unsubstantial example, but it's just to point out that no matter what you are doing, you are influencing people around you. So that really has to be something that we as individuals take special care
Seriously.
in doing. Yeah.
Yeah. This related to that, this line in the article I really liked said the boundaries between who is or isn't a creator, as well as who is or isn't famous, have become increasingly irrelevant.
Yes.
And I think it's true. Like, it doesn't matter if you personally define yourself as a creator or not. If you're doing these things that we're talking about, creating, then you are, whether you chose to be or not, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Something else that was said, and I know that Miguel isn't here, and he doesn't like it when we read sections because he thinks that we lose people. But since Miguel's not here, I'm going to do it anyway because I thought this was really
so
relevant.
Stick around and prove Miguel wrong, everybody.
Yeah, you can tell me if you think that I would be a good, I don't know, voiceover person.
Audiobook reader? Yeah.
Yeah. This is something that relates. I want to talk about this or transition into this because this is something that we have talked about a lot, especially as it relates to burnout. Here is an excerpt from this article. This is the central tension of making your own digital self-performance and the industry around you your job. Everyone wants the job because it's creative, freeing, not a 9-to-5. But ever since going full-time as a content creator, I realized I traded my 9-to-5 to work 24/7 instead, explained Joshua Holmes, a TikToker with 1.5 million followers. He said that in a recent video. Not a second goes by that I'm not thinking about creating content. I don't watch sunsets or have genuine moments with my friends being like, can we do that again? I wasn't recording. He said that being a content creator for most people doesn't become profitable for a year and a half, if that. Every day I ask myself, did I really choose freedom or just a fancier cage? But at the same time, isn't the fancier cage better than a regular one? Yeah, probably. And I really loved that because I think that it's something that people need to talk about. Charlie, you've talked about this a lot at your personal life with ConvertKit, but setting these boundaries and, people, I can't remember the exact creator, but it's like there is a URL or somebody that uses, I think it's called like Quit the 9-to-5, or 9-to-5 is actually in their business name. And I think that this is just a really important call out, is that as these high schoolers or, youth, teenagers and children aspire to this, that there has to be like healthy amounts of boundaries in this profession, or else it's not going to be good for society as a whole and our mental health.
Yep. Yeah. And they go into that as well, saying that like there's a lot of FOMO around content creation because it seems so easy to do. And like, it is so easy really to be a creator. We have the tools on us right now. You probably have it in your pocket that you can make an Instagram post, film a TikTok, and get it up there if you choose to. It is easy. There's a low barrier to entry. But it's also really difficult to make money from. So we feel FOMO because we're like doing the same things that these fancy content creators are who are earning the millions, and we're not receiving the same rewards for it. The article ends by saying, like, isn't it more elegant after all to call yourself a creator as opposed to a part-time barista, part-time Uber driver, part-time influencer, even if the latter might be more accurate. And I thought, yeah, that's probably where it comes from, is that creator, unlike influencer, I think, is a term that has a lot of respect put on it. And so aligning yourself with that is a great way to, like, I don't know, I think it's good to aspire to. You can feel good about yourself and what you're doing as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I really enjoyed this article for a lot of reasons, because I think that it highlights both the beauty in content creation, and it talks a lot about, like the just the industry as well, but it also like gives like a little bit of a warning, right? And it effectively kind of highlights both the positives and the negatives of it. And so I really liked this article a lot. I'm curious for everybody else, make sure that you leave comments if there was something that particularly like stuck out to you that you really liked as well.
There was one part of it that I wrote in my notes, what it means for us, that made me think about ConvertKit, because obviously we first called ourselves a platform for bloggers, but like, bloggers are creators too. So we have been for creators since the very beginning, since the inception of our company, since Nathan first had the idea to build the tool and all that. But I'll just read this piece from the article. It says, the word's vagueness, speaking about like creator in general, has allowed countless startups to blossom around serving the millions of people who make up the industry. And creator-first platforms seem to sprout up near daily. At least a dozen mobile financial services market themselves as explicitly for creators, for example. And this is something that like we market ourselves as being for creators, made by a team of creators. And I have kind of felt like that message has felt weakened recently because of how many other tools out there are saying that. And I am not convinced that many other tools are actually for creators or by creators. I think that it is still something that we have that is very, very special, is that at our heart, like leading our company is a creator. Like, you know, first and foremost, Nathan is a creator.
Yeah, well,
so I don't know
if you think about the reason why he launched ConvertKit in the first place was because he was a creator that was using a service that did not meet the needs of him as a specific creator. And at that time, what year was that? 2010.
Nope. No idea. We should know that. We should definitely know that. I'm going to call ourselves out. Yeah.
Sorry,
I know it was before 2016. That's when I joined the company.
I hope you are not listening to this right now. Anyways, gosh, I almost lost my. Oh, I was. Wait, did I lose my train of thought? No, yeah, I did. I'm back. I think I'm back. But he started the company then because, and at the time, the creator economy wasn't a thing. Right. He was truly a creator that was saying, I personally have this problem as a content creator, as a creator, as a blogger. And at the time, the word creator didn't really exist in the same way that it does today when you think about the creator economy. So I agree with that, meaning that I agree with that. At our heart, we've always been a company that is for creators because we understand the exact problems versus it being an opportunity to serve an industry, right? And that is where I think that that's where I think that the creator economy right now is that there are so many people that are jumping in to take advantage of it and not truly understanding the problems that creators have. So
yeah, totally. I agree on that. This is another bit that I highlighted that I really wanted to bring up. It says that creators are less judged on their talent or passion and more on how good they are at being themselves. Essentially, they're one-person media empires, whatever that medium may be, which I thought was really interesting. And like because you just said about understanding creators and their problems. Truly, creators run businesses, right? Like you build a business around yourself, around your content. But at the end of the day, we're different from other SMBs because really what we are doing is being paid to be ourselves and share our knowledge. And that is very unique in the terms of like business in general, isn't it?
Yeah, I know it totally is. I think that, I lost my train of thought there. I'm not going to lie. Actually, what happened is Erica in the chat had said after you said,
I saw this too. I also laughed at this. Let's bring it up on screen.
Yeah, she said right after you stick around, my phone died, LOL. And in my mind, all I was thinking about while you were making your last comment was Erica's phone dying. So I literally lost it all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, friends. It's not a good day for me to retain information.
Hopefully we did have people sticking around with all the article reading that we've been doing. And don't apologize, Erica. We always love seeing people leaving notes in the chat throughout our recordings.
Yeah,
maybe we'll end on
people as well. I love it.
Yeah, it's like honestly one of the best parts of being a creator is that one-to-one engagement, right? But maybe we should end by talking about this last piece, which is about calling back to something you said at the beginning, Haley, the nurse as an example who built a platform around creating. We're seeing a lot of that happen, but I think we're also seeing this need for content creation skills in general to become a part of other jobs. There was this one quote from Li Jin, who is a very prolific writer and investor in the creator economy, says no matter which industry you're in, people are all going to be creators. All of us will have to adopt some of the skill sets and behaviors of creators in order to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this? Does this ring true for you?
100%. I feel like people, to advance their careers, let's say, for example, let's use LinkedIn as an example.
Sure. Why? Curious where we're going.
well, no. I feel like, let's say that you work for a company, you work for a corporate company, right? And you do not, let's say, subscribe to, like, you're not a content creator, or you don't do that professionally.
Yeah. You're not out there trying actively to build an audience.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
For many people that are in that space, where they actually gain influence as somebody who is in kind of the corporate world, is on LinkedIn, which requires them to act almost the same way they would on Twitter, right? They're being thought leaders, essentially. When you're a thought leader, I think that thought leaders are all creators. And so these kind of corporate folks, you could even classify like myself in there, for example, meaning that, like, I don't have like a side hustle right now project that I work on exclusively. My big full-time job is working at ConvertKit. And in order for me to, let's say, like I said, I kind of fit in that mold as well. But all of these folks, even the most successful people at very large corporations, at Nike, at Adobe, at, insert
other companies your friends work at.
Other companies. Well, apparently, like I said, I'm brain fog today, it's real. But my point is that they're using their influence at these large companies to gain a bigger audience and to therefore become thought leaders. And so, Nathan is a thought leader, and that themselves, the thought leader, is a creator. It requires them to create content as a thought leader. It requires them to write posts. And you see a lot of people expanding on LinkedIn, their network of people that will help them in their corporate career, even if they do not associate or draw an income from that. And so I totally agree. I think that writing is one of those skills. Right. Mm-hmm. Writing is a skill that every single person if you want to, extend your career or expand your career, writing is one of those things that will really help elevate you. And that can be exercised in a LinkedIn post. That can be exercised in a Twitter thread. That can be exercised in having a blog. That can be exercised. And I think one of the reasons for that is mostly and actually this kind of goes back to my very early comment about my friend's boss. And she wrote this blog post about why she's doing this challenge. She says, I have influence, but I've not exercised it to my full capacity. I've not exercised it enough, and I have a voice. And she was saying, like, there's, several ways that I can use my voice, and I'm going to be better at doing that. And this was her first step in doing that. And she is not a content creator. She is a VP executive at Nike. That is her job. And so, I don't know. Did I get there?
Did I
close
it? And you know what you also did is that you tied in the random banter tangent we went off at the beginning into the main point. So well done, Haley. I did. Great job. Yeah. I also think, though, just to add on, that it's not only external facing content that can help you in your role, in whatever career, and probably more like a career involving sitting on your computer for 8 hours a day is what I'm talking about here. But there's a lot of internal content you can create within your company to, like, build your own influence in your role in the company and take on things that creators do to, like, progress in the job you're in, not necessarily be putting it out there for, like, publicly for the next one as well. Writing, as you called out as an example, super important for us at ConvertKit as a remote company for writing to be a strong skill that everybody has to communicate asynchronously. But there's lots of ways that we can influence within our company and within our roles. We can learn from creators from that.
Yeah. Something else I'll share really quickly is that this is something obviously that's happening. I now have mentioned youth and children, or teenagers and children, too many times on this podcast, but
You're just filling your role as the
in
parent.
in an effort
I'll
to
talk
beat a
about
dead
cats more
horse.
later.
I have 3 girls. My oldest 2 are 7 and 10, and we have a flower business, a side hustle that I help them with, and we grow cut flowers in our backyard, very Floret Farms type thing. This summer, I bought them super cute. I bought them 2 bikes that have like these really cool, like baskets in the back, so they can actually load up and go and sell. And this is how they make their money for Christmas gifts and all the things and stuff that they want. And they typically they ride around the neighborhood on their bikes and knock on doors. When I was a kid, I did that with mistletoe. I used to collect mistletoe, would tie ribbons on it. That's how I made my Christmas money. I would sell mistletoe in front of Vons for $2 or walk around. I got in trouble a lot of times for leaving and not telling my parents I was going. But I was making money. But I was making money. I carried them in a wagon, a yellow wagon, in case anyone is wondering. All that said, my daughter's 10 years old, and I don't love the idea of her getting on social media right now, but I do believe that social media, specifically Instagram, right now is a key skill that you need to be able to exercise in order to grow your business. And so that's a skill that her selling like a direct to consumer product, right? Flower baskets, like they're going to create their own little Instagram channel or Instagram page this year. We think we're calling it something like Family of Flowers, because my mom's involved as well, things like that. And then we're going to post where we're at. If we go to, instead of like driving around the neighborhoods, we're going to post like, we're going to be at this corner from, noon to 2 kind of thing. And that right there is content creation. That takes, the skill that she has to create and selling. And so those skills, like you said, Charlie, are something that every person, if they're going to be an entrepreneur themselves, if they're going to start a direct to consumer business, you have to be able to have the skills of talking to people. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to take photos and be kind of generally skilled at that. You have to learn like what's aesthetically pleasing in order for you to be successful. And without that, which is really marketing, then your business won't even flourish. And those are the skills that content creators are really, really, really exceptional at. They're really exceptional at like showing their business and the marketing component and being themselves. And everybody loves to go into a shop where the owner is like, hey, how's it going? Welcoming. And so I guess to your point, I just wanted to close out with just saying that these are skills that these are skills that everybody needs.
Yeah.
And content creators specifically like have really paved the way for launching those.
I'm feeling now like I put too much shade on the content creator term at the start of this episode when I was talking about how I don't identify it. And I think that I might be being too snobby about that. I think I'm going to call myself out on that, because it's really just like influencer, how I'm feeling about content creator. I'm like, oh, it doesn't really communicate the value, but like we put the meaning in the term, right? And in the name. And so you're right. Creating content in and of itself is a valuable skill, and let's not put shade on. Let's not put shade on that. Also, I am just dreaming of one day having your daughter on the podcast to talk about running her Instagram page, because I think that would be so cute.
We should totally do that. That would be so entertaining. She is honestly like, I am really making her do the work this year. I did a lot of the work last year as far as like, even growing the flowers. She's going all in this year. Like she's also learned photography. She like fully knows the triangle. She can like, she's like, oh, I think the ISO might be too high, Mom.
And you're like, okay.
And I was like, hell yes, girl. You keep
That's
doing
awesome.
it.
Okay, so a future episode, let's expect to see her on the show someday. Yes. Any closing thoughts, Haley, or should we move on and tell people what to expect next week?
I don't have closing thoughts. I've bantered enough on this episode. I love the article. Okay. It's great. If you didn't watch it, we'll include it obviously in the show, or read it. Yep. We'll include it in the show notes. Add any comments if you have them on things that stuck out to you.
Yeah. definitely, we're always keen to hear your thoughts, even if they're not coming in live in the chat during the meantime. So next week, we hope that there will be no tornadoes in KC, and we will get to interview the wonderful Whitney Manny. She is a fashion designer, a textile artist, and we're going to be talking to her about building a successful creative career when you don't live in a main creative hub. And about all the opportunities she's had from embracing.
I can learn from this
local.
one. I can learn
Yes,
from
you
this
can.
one. This is
as much as you love Boise and like to shout out about it. This
it.
is one thing you can accept.
Yes, I
not
can't
a
accept
creative
that. In fact, Henry and I joke about this all the time because while we would be out filming creator sessions, somebody would always inevitably say, or Henry would be like, "Hey, so where you're playing next?" You know, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna be in New York, you know, or I'm playing in Brooklyn, da da da." And Henry's like, "Oh, sweet, I live there. Like, we'll get together and hang out, you know." And I'm like, "What about Boise? You're not, no, that's not on the tour list." Oh, well, all right, okay. You know, thanks for that. Well, I'm there in case you want to go. There's a, you know, we've got a cool.
There's one fan. But
hey,
we will hear from Whitney about that, and she'll give some advice for creators who also don't live in main creative hubs. And it's going to be a great episode, so we hope you'll tune in at 12:30 Eastern time live here on our YouTube channel next week. Good chat, Haley.
Right.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.